Okay, in your last assignment of the year, we are going to use theoretical probability to make predictions about things that could happen in the future. Right? So this is a riddle page. I will teach you how to complete the riddle at the end of this video. All right, so the first page is all about the dice that's up here at the top of the page. There, I just colored it yellow, right? So we're going to use this dice to make predictions about some things. So the very first question, question A, says, how many equally likely outcomes are there? Well, how many different numbers could it land on? All right, so there are 6 outcomes, and then I'm going to list them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. The next question is one we've done before. If you roll the die once, what is the probability of rolling a 3? Well, looking at the outcomes that we just wrote down, how many 3s are on a die? Just 1. 1 out of 6 total outcomes. So I'm going to write in the E box 6 total outcomes. And how many 1s are on there? Just 1. All right. And then on this entire assignment, you're going to have to make sure that if it's a probability, that you write it as a fraction. Right? That you write it as a fraction. All right. H is going to be the last one I do on this page. If you roll the die 60 times, about how many times would you expect to get a 1? Well, from the previous problem, in the E box right above, we said 1 out of the 6 outcomes is a 1. So the question is, well, what about if I roll it? If I roll it 60 times, what should happen? Okay, so I'm going to take that fraction and I'm going to put it in the box, right? 1 side out of the 6 sides has a 1 on it. I want to know, well, what about if I roll it 60 times? So I'm going to say 60 total rolls, and because that's a total, it's a denominator. And I'm going to set up a proportion, a fraction that equals another fraction. Let me change the color there. A fraction that equals another fraction. All right. So I went from 6 to 60 for my denominator, so that's times 10. So I have to do the same thing on the top. That's times 10. So 1 times 10 is 10. So this should be 10 1s, all right? I expect 10 1s. Expect to roll. I'll put this in a different color. 10 1s. Right? Out of the 60 times that I roll that die, 10 times it's going to land on a 1. All right, I'm going to leave I for you. I is almost exactly like H, except this time you're going to roll it 300 times. All right, on to the second page, and you get this spinner. All right, the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to color it pretty quickly. Make the B blue. Let's see. C can be red for cherries. And A can be green for green apples. That's kind of a dark green, but that's all right. Okay. So we did a spinner problem on last week's assignment, and you're immediately going to notice that the outcomes are not equally likely. They're not equal sized, and that's up there on the top. I just highlighted that in yellow-orange. All right, so you don't have an equal chance to land on A as you do in B. All right, we can decide to split this so that each section is equal size. That's absolutely fine. Or we can leave it and we can still make all the math work. All right, so E, if you spin the spinner once, what is the probability that it will stop on A? Well, I hope you can easily see that A makes up half of the spinner. All right, so you can either just say 1/2, all right, because A is half of that spinner, or we could write there are 4 total outcomes. And if you don't see them, this is when you make that line across. If you're going to use a denominator, you have to make sure that each size is equal, all right? Each piece is equal sized, right? And 2 of those outcomes are A. A and A. There we go. So this is 2/4, which you would have to simplify to 1/2. Okay, so there's where you can get the 1/2. That was problem E. Okay, now I'm going to look at problem T. If you spin the spinner 50 times, how many times do you... No, what? I'm not going to do that one. I'm going to go on to problem Y. If you spin the spinner 80 times, how many times should it land on C? I'm going to look over here at C, and I'm going to say, well, what fraction of the spinner is C? It is 1/4. All right, so because this is problem Y, I'm going to go down to the box that has a Y in it, and I'm going to start with 1/4. All right, I can say 1C, 4 outcomes. All right, and I don't remember how many times I'm supposed to spin it, so I'm going to go up to the top. All right, if I spin it 80 times, how many times would I expect it to stop on C? So I'm going to spin it 80 total times, so I'm going to write 80 total spins. So how many times should it land on C is going to go right up on the top. All right, so I have to figure out for my denominators 4 to what? Or how many 4s make 80, or 4 times something is 80. So 1 times that same number is going to make your C's. You can finish that problem. I'm not going to finish it for you. All right. Now, I skipped a page. Actually, I reordered them. I reordered the pages so that way there'd be space to do all of the riddles at the end. Okay. I'm going to look at 2 problems. I'm going to look at C, and then I'm going to look at K. All right. So problem C says these letters A, E, I, O, U, and Y. So be careful. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are vowels. So you've heard sometimes Y. Well, this is one of those times in this problem. They are calling Y a vowel. If one letter of the alphabet is chosen at random, what is the probability it is a vowel? So the very first thing you'd figure out is how many total letters are there? I'm not going to count them for you, and maybe you just know how many there are. That's a good number to just know. It's going to pop up at you in math for the rest of your math career. So make sure it might be worth your time to memorize how many letters there are. All right, then going back into the problem, it says if one letter of the alphabet is chosen at random, what is the probability that it is a vowel? Well, we numbered the vowels, right? So you need the vowels on the top. Right? And then you probably are going to need to simplify that fraction. So I'm going to write equals. All right? Simplify that fraction. All right. K, if you randomly pick a date in April, how many equally likely outcomes are there? All right. So this word date is like April 15th. Right? Or April 22nd, all right? So how many different choices do you have? That's what the word outcome is saying, right? You're just as likely to pick April 15th as April 22nd. Both days are the same length, right? Or there's one April 15th and there's one April 22nd, right? We don't double any of the dates. It doesn't go April 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 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 18th, okay? So they're equally likely outcomes, all right? So if we're asking how many equally likely outcomes are there, it's asking you really how many days are in that month, all right? So for K, blank total days in April. And maybe you know what that number is. Maybe not, and you'll have to figure it out. All right. The last page I honestly think is the easiest. This is exactly like what we did last week. I'm only going to do one of these with you. I'm going to look at SP striped. Remember that P says probability of striped. Okay, now I'm going to go back and read number 3. Find the probability if you choose one marble at random. So I need to know 2 things. Number 1, I need to know how many total marbles there are here. Looks like there are 10 to me, but you might want to double count just in case Ms. Twevilla made a mistake. S says the probability of getting a striped one. So now I'm going to count the striped ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 out of the 10 are striped. Notice that I made these boxes a little bit smaller. So I'm going to go into box S and write 10 total marbles. 6 are striped. Right? So now I would need to write that as a fraction, and then I would need to write it as a simplified fraction. 6/10 is not going to be an acceptable answer. Now, if you choose to number the marbles, you will need to unnumber them when you're done for each problem. Okay? All right, the very last part, down on the bottom, there's a riddle. When one tire maker married, it shouldn't say the, I'm going to cross that out. When one tire maker married another tire maker, what did everyone say? All right, so for each problem that we just did, we're going to write the problem's letter above each answer below. If you don't know what to do, watch my video. Well, hey, here you are. Okay, so I'm going to quickly go back up to a problem that I finished all the way. Like problem E. All right, so E, the answer was 1/2. E, the answer was 1/2, so I'm going to go down on the bottom. Try not to scroll too fast and make you sick. I'm going to find 1/2. Here it is. And that's where I'm going to write the letter E. I believe there will be blank spaces here to represent the spaces in the words. Okay? I don't care if you don't do the riddle. The riddle is just kind of fun to do. If you don't do the riddle, fine. All right? But make sure that you finish every problem up above to get full credit. All right. Good luck.